What is the deal? You're watching the T-Money Podcast joint. My name is T-Money, and today we got my girl Stax Cadero on the scene, in the building, in the place to be.
What up, T-Money?
She's sitting in the seat of Sierra Ross. Sierra Ross is not here today, but what's the deal, Stax? Everything good?
Everything is great.
You good in the hood, and the hood's good?
You know what I mean? It's a Harlem thing. That's what we do.
Oh, the Harlem thing.
Absolutely.
Wow. Harlem always in the building. Harlem's always in the building. So today we have personally, we have somebody that's very cool. He's a very cool and very talented and very amazing. I mean, I give too many compliments. Guys sound crazy, but let me tell you, this guy right here, we go back like camel humps and suede fronts. You know what I mean? We go back like leather jackets and all that. You know what I mean? This my man right here, man. Rico Anderson, DJ producer Rico Anderson in the building. What's cracking?
On the T-Money Podcast. I'm here.
What the deal, homie Slice?
Brother. I know. It's been
say it twice. What's the deal, homie Slice?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. What's happening with you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling great. You know what I mean? I'm glad to be here with you and be here with Stax, and and we could just sit down and chop it up.
Let me tell the world something. Let me tell you something. So sometimes in life, you run across. I mean, if you know anything about music, film, anything that works the left and right brain, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You always spot somebody who's just incredibly talented, and you are that, my brother. I just wanted to tell you that. I've known you for many years, and I'm glad you're getting your flowers. You know, if I could, I'd put them all over the table so the world can see. So, but peep this.
This is good.
Peep right? Game. So now I know this. So now we got to let the world know exactly who Rico Anderson is. That our followers know why you're so talented, what you've been doing. So let's go back. Let's circle back.
Right.
Let's moonwalk. Let's moonwalk back to the very beginning. So you originate from our nation's capital, right?
Yeah, I'm from Washington D.C.
Washington D.C., home of
Southeast Washington.
Southeast.
Yeah.
You know who was a comedian that just did was it Earthquake, Southeast.
Yeah.
Salute to Quake. Yo, that was the funniest special in the world. Peace to Earthquake. But yeah, so home of go-go, right?
Yeah,
go-go music.
Yes, go-go
and
music.
You as a music producer and DJ, you came out of Washington D.C. and talk to me a little about how you got started, and and maybe some of the challenges, because even though Washington D.C. is a metropolitan area, it's not L.A.
Right.
It's not New York City.
Yeah. So
I'm quite sure there were challenges in getting your music heard by the right people. So talk to us a little about that.
Okay. I'm from Washington D.C. from Southeast Washington D.C. And my dad was a musician.
Oh, okay.
So he did gospel music. Mm-hmm. And then along with him being a musician, he was also a producer for the band that he had. So, but he actually lived in California. So I didn't live with him. So when I went to go visit him, I think when I was maybe 7, he took me in the studio.
Oh, okay.
And I got 5 sisters.
Oh, they all older than you?
They all lived. They were all there with him.
Okay, but my thing is, but were they?
No, 3 of them were younger.
Actually,
1 is older, and then the other 4
are younger. I was just trying to get the dynamic, because you know how that go.
But the whole point that I'm getting at is that he would try to take them, and they would get bored and start complaining and this, that, and other. But when he took me, it was like I just felt like, wow, this is the coolest place in the world.
In the studio, right?
You know what I mean?
You felt at home, right?
Yeah, I felt at home. It was like a fish in his fish tank. You know what I mean? And it was a really natural thing. I had never seen nothing like that before. But when I went in there and I was watching the process, I was always into music. I always liked music. But now I could get a visual of, oh, that's how they do that.
Right.
Oh, that's how this goes. Oh, okay. So now, after seeing that, when I was listening to music, it was like I had a different way of interpreting it now, because I actually saw it in real time the way it was done. Most people just hear a record when it comes over the radio, and that's just all.
Yeah, you got to listen. You listen to music from a creative lens, just like if you were a filmmaker. You look at the movies differently.
I understood the layers in the process of it, of what it took. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, like I said, my dad, he did gospel, but I was a kid. you know how, when we was younger and, everybody would bring out, somebody would bring this toy out and somebody would bring this out or something out. Everybody would bring something out the house, that they had. I was the only one that could bring out a record.
Nice.
Oh, that's kind of
cool. Like, that's my pops right there.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
You know what I mean? And
talk about show and tell.
Right, facts. Right. So what song? So what song was it? Was your father? What song?
I mean, it was his. He had a gospel group, and it was called Joy, and they were out of San Diego.
Oh, okay, California,
so
right?
So he was staying there. So, but the mere fact that I had a record, you know what I mean? Like nobody else had that. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like early on. It was kind of like that. Kind of shaped, I guess, where I was looking at. Like, okay, it was a reality to me that was real.
Right.
Where everybody else looked at entertainment as that world of make believe.
That was untouchable, right?
Right. And to me, it became a reality of something that you could actually, that was attainable.
So at what age were you in the studio? At 7 years old. Wow.
Yeah, 7. It was the first time that I went in the studio.
So that kind of explains why now you're so
The funny
amazing.
part is this, right? Really, it's both of my parents because, see, my mom, her and a couple of her girlfriends, they used to throw parties, right? So I was the coat check boy. You know what I mean? I used to check the coats.
Right.
But after everybody was in the party, I would go slide next to the DJ.
Watch what he was doing.
Right. But what would happen is I'm sitting there thinking while I'm watching him play, like, wow, he should play this after that. And he would play it.
Right.
Without me even saying it. So that I started to go like, oh, okay. Or I would even suggest to him, hey, and he would go, oh, yeah, that's good. So that kind of, I kind of figured out like, okay, I must, like have like a DJ's ear, or I could at least understand, the energy of the dance floor or the energy of the, the party or just that whole thing. Or even as far as when you putting your sets together of what records, how to build up to, a climax or, this, that, and the other, and not just playing, just any old thing at any given time.
That's kind of amazing how that works too. Like, you're not listening to music just to enjoy it because sonically, music does something to everybody.
Yeah.
You ever heard that old adage, it calms the savage beast. Because sonically, music does a lot. It could change you in so many ways.
It's all in the frequency.
But you're not listening at this age to just merely have that energy. You're listening as a foreman at a construction site. You're looking at the music like, I'm building this song. Exactly. I'm building this kind of energy. I know what moves people, and that becomes an incredible talent later on in your life, correct?
Well, I mean, it starts from even before, like, I think my first DJ job was just a kid. Rick, put some records on in the house.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody's dead, and it's like, put some records on there. First, you was the kid that they told, don't touch the turntable or don't touch the stereo.
Right.
But then I figured out how to work everything on there more than anybody else in the house. So then it became, well, go put some records on.
Right.
So that was my first DJ gig, just in the house as a kid. You know what I mean? When the family came over and they wanted to party, my grandmother and this one, that, and the other, and I knew what her favorite record was and what my uncle's favorite record was.
That's nice.
And,
That's
you
nice.
know what I mean? And so that was I would say the early developmental stages. Then when it gets to my mother being, like throwing parties and stuff, I was able to, the DJ that she hired it was a guy, he's a legendary DC DJ. He's no longer here, but his name was DC Fats. And he was like, like the real, big DJ guy in DC that did all of the cabarets and the parties and stuff like that. So, like I said, I got to just sit right next to him and just watch what he was doing. You know what I mean? So it's like subconsciously, I think that stuff just kind of
facts, and that's how you grew. That's how you grew into music. But talk to me a little when you mentioned DC Fats. Salute to him and R.I.P. Talk to me a little about the scene. Because DC had its own vibe. DC had its own vibe. Like, DC wasn't LA, not at all.
Right.
It wasn't New York. It wasn't even Florida. It was a totally different energy.
Yeah,
so talk to me a little about the vibe in DC. Like, when, you DJ, what did he play? Like, what kind of music did they like? I mean, everybody knows they like go-go, but there's other music too.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I mean, it was pretty much, whatever was the, hot records that was out, on the radio. At that time, you figured, See, I had the luxury of watching hip hop evolve and watching go-go evolve, and then at a certain point they was actually all in the same, position,
Right.
and they were working together
Right.
a lot. And actually, a lot of people don't really realize it. So, but the because some people have asked, like, it was a certain point, because you had, like, you figure Curtis Blow and Trouble Funk was making records together, EU and Trouble.
I was going to mention EU.
Curtis Blow.
In my mind, I'm thinking doing the butt
no, this is before the butt.
Okay.
Curtis Blow's Party Time.
Oh, right.
Party Time, that's EU playing in the back.
Oh, facts.
Right?
That's facts.
A lot of people don't know if you ever heard
That's
Grace
dope.
Jones' record Slave to the Rhythm. That's EU.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
It's
that.
playing in the back.
See, this is
Wow.
again.
You know what I'm saying?
This is why I like doing this show,
Another
because
history lesson.
you hear
Let's
things,
take it
right?
all the way back. Sugar Hill Records. Trouble Funk was signed to Sugar Hill Records. Drop the Bomb came out
Drop the bomb.
on Sugar Hill Records.
Initially, it was on Sugar Hill, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It came out. So that's just saying that those musicians just didn't stop playing and making their records.
Right.
They also played on
Other people's records.
other records that
Right.
were, hip hop
Right.
records. So that's just saying that where that that influence was. But you had a lot of the rappers that was doing their thing at the time, and then the go-go bands that was doing their thing. They did a lot of stuff together. You know what I mean? And even down to the guy that had Island Records.
Island Records.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank, but it'll come to me in 1 second. But same guy that introduced us to Bob Marley, and then he was behind, I guess, funding with Def Jam. So basically, he was supporting both genres of music. He came to DC and he got with one of the guys that was kind of like the premier record exec. He had all of the go-go bands signed at that particular time, and he got with him. And basically, the thing was this: when they made Crush Groove for the hip hop side, there was a movie that was made for go-go, but most people never really even got to see it.
What movie was it?
It was called Good to Go. Right? And let me tell you what happened with that. What happened with that was this.
It's around the same time period then.
Same exact time.
Oh, okay.
period.
All right.
Yeah, like he pretty much, put this on this side, put that on that side,
Right.
and we was gonna see what happened. Of course, like I said, Crush Groove just, took off. And,
Right.
And then hip-hop.
Crush Groove had because hip hop was on its way up, right?
Yeah,
Right.
but that's how it was able to get to the masses by way of the movies.
Right.
That's how it just got outside of it just being a localized thing. Once it hit the theaters, everybody all over saw it, and everybody was able to identify where they fit in. They looked at the movie. Oh, okay, I like art. Okay, I'm a graffiti writer. Oh, I like that. You know what I mean? And then they took their positions. But with the film that they did about go-go, initially it was about the scene, kind of similar to how Crush Groove was evolved around the Fat Boys and Run DMC and the different artists. It was
LL
the same
Cool
thing.
J and
Yeah. And it was the same thing here, where they were the storyline was supposed to go that it was about the different rivalries with the bands, kind of like with Purple Rain, how the time and
Right.
Princess Band.
Oh, wow.
And, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But it was just that in the sense of go-go. But what happened is, in real life, there was a really, really like heinous crime that took place in D.C. and it was known as it was the 8th and H Street. It was a lady that was a nurse that was coming home late, and some guys, robbed, raped her. It's just really bad. You know what I mean? So what happened is, when that was it became such a big story at that time, that the people that were a part of the movie rewrote the script, and they started to include stuff like that from that story into the and it became less about what the bands were going through with the music, and they
became more about the tragedy.
They kind of switched the narrative to say that when these people go to the go-go to listen to this music, you know, they go get high, they go do this, and that, but then a crime comes out of that. You know what I mean?
So it put go-go in a bad light.
It put it in a really bad light to the point where once it was released, none of the bands even wanted to support it.
Right.
Because the thing was, when they shot it, you know, they just went and showed up for their scene. They had no idea, you know, how the whole thing was going to be looking.
Right.
They just, you know, got bits and pieces of it, and they showed up to do it. But once they saw the whole thing, it was like, nah, we can't co-sign.
So, but at this time, you know, and after the tragedy, you know, we in New York and then Chicago and L.A. looked at D.C. like D.C. itself was like the murder capital of the world.
Yeah, at one point it got you know? it was real bad.
And I don't know how that influenced the music, but that, I mean, it was tough.
It did. I mean, it was definitely a part of it, but the music wasn't a contributor.
And this is what the picture was depicting, right? Which was not good.
And the point that I'm getting to is that, see, I guess, you know, when you look at how like Crush Group was or whatever, the narrative was able to be controlled by the people that were a part of it.
Right.
On this side, they brought people in from the outside to tell the story, and then they decided the story should be told this way instead of that way. And nobody supported it. Nobody got behind it. So, of course, when the movie came out, it tanked.
Yeah, of course.
And it bombed. So from someone who was investing in that, and then they had something else that skyrocketed, they jumped on the train that was...
Yeah, that happens. You know what I mean?
You know, so that was a real pivotal and, you know, a major...
When you make movies like that, you know, you have to, you know, and a lot of movie companies, you know, understand the risks that are involved, because things that are out of your control can happen, you know? Just like Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, and, you know, I co-starred in the movie Who's the Man?
Yeah.
You know,
I went to the premiere for that.
Yeah, no question. and the movie was released around the time that, you know, the LA riots happened.
Yeah.
So, you know, and nobody out in California went to the film.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the movie, that helped the movie. I'm not going to say the movie tanked, but that helped the movie not do well on its initial release.
Yeah, it didn't necessarily
You know,
contribute.
so I remember us leaving California and actually seeing fire and the end of brimstone, you know, you know, from the riots.
I remember
from
that.
the plane.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because we left just before, you know, just as this was transpiring. So I can
What's
understand.
crazy was I was here. I was in New York when it happened, and I remember I was in the studio, and I remember they locked down Times Square. They
sure did. The world went crazy. The world went crazy.
Times Square. They didn't allow any trains to leave out of Manhattan or any trains to come into Manhattan. So the whole subway system got shut down. And it was like, you know, it was just, it wasn't really pandemonium, but they were trying to make sure that what was going on here didn't spill all the way, you know, over there.
Things like that happen all the time. So. And it's unfortunate, but it's the way the business happens. But let's go back a little bit. So so me and you have history a little bit. So this is my man Rico Anderson, you know, phenomenal DJ and producer, right? So I know you DJ'd and you learned the music and and how it moves the crowd, and you can hear it in what you produce. And you had let's talk about your beginnings as a producer. You know,
my beginnings. Okay,
and let's talk about the the stuff that I heard. Okay, and you had R&B group, and
we could go there. Yeah. I mean, basically, I started kind of, you know, it was like I didn't even know what a producer was initially, right? As far as, like I said, I knew that's what my dad was doing with that. Right. It was kind of like, you know, when hip hop came out. And it's a funny story with that. I tell Dougie Fresh this a few times. Is what happened is
Doug Fresh.
Check this out. I actually was going to play in a go-go band.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I had a Moog synthesizer, and that's what they used to drop the bomb, and all that type of stuff. And so I had one of those, and the guy who played in the band actually showed me how to play keyboard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was in my class. He was like a couple years older than me. When I was in 9th grade, he was in 11th grade. And what happened is, it was, you know how like every year for Christmas it was like, they had the Cabbage Patch Kids was the popular gift. And then
every year, yeah.
Every year. So this was the year, get your kid a keyboard. Everybody got a Casio.
All right.
Everybody got the, so I got this Yamaha, and it's like I was messing around with it, and
Yamaha? Yeah.
It was like a little, it was a little Yamaha Porter sound.
Yeah, I know about those.
Yeah. So I had gotten that, and like I said, everybody got the keyboard that year. You know what I mean? But I was looking at it like, okay, I could really, kind of do something with it. And so I started messing with it, and then when I ended up going back to school, it was a guy that was in my French class when I was in 9th grade. Real quiet guy, kind of, almost nerdy, if you want to say, right? But he was sitting in the back, didn't really talk to nobody. And one day I came into class, and I saw him reading this brochure, or it was a manual for this synthesizer. And I was like...
In French class?
In French class,
wow.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
So, I tell everybody, it's only, I only remember Ferme la bouche. In French, which means shut up, because all I did was talk in class. So I convinced the teacher. I was like, yo, you need to sit me back there with him, because he don't talk to nobody, and if I ain't got nobody to talk to, you won't hear me talking. So he let me move my seat. So when I got back there, not only did he have the manual to this synthesizer, he had a manual to a 4-track. And I was like, well, what's that? He's like, well, I'm asking my mom to give me this for Christmas, and this allowed me to be able to have like a studio, this, that, and the other. So I'm listening to him, and I'm sitting here telling him like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm into that too. I got a keyboard, this, that, and the other. All I was doing, I would just put the little beat on, and I'd get a little melody going, and just loop the same thing over and over and over, and just put that on tape, and I thought I was making a song. So I'm like, yeah, you got any tapes of your stuff? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, bring your tapes, bring your tape to school tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm
back there networking.
Yeah.
In class.
In French class, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm telling him, bring your tape to school tomorrow, and I'll check. I'm going to bring mine, and, maybe I could, show you something. I'm telling him this. Right. Like I said, he's 2 years older than me. I'm like, yeah, maybe I can show you something.
He's reading manuals. You telling him he can show you. Right. You can show him something.
Yo, listen. He bought his tape, and I had mine. But something said, ask him, let you hear his first.
Facts. That's facts.
So I heard his a little bit, and I was like, can I take this home? I said,
Smart guy.
Can I take this home? He was like, yeah. He was like, well, can I hear? I was like, nah, I actually left.
It was time to learn, though.
I went home.
That's crazy.
And I listened to this dude's tape. What he had done, he had made a tape of all of, like, he would make remakes of other people's stuff. He had, like, Prince on there, Purple Rain, Stevie Wonder, this, that, and the other. And then he had, like, his own original songs that he made, too.
Right.
But the way he did it, he had it sounding like it was a radio show. Like it came on like a radio show, and then all those songs would come behind it, right? And I remember I went home, and I never forget, this was my exact thought. I listened to it, and I said, this dude is better than Stevie Wonder. In my mind, you know what I mean? I'm thinking, and I'm like, he's in my class. So I went back the next day, and I still didn't take my tape. I was just like, no, I can't. Man, I ain't even gonna do that. But I convinced him to hook school one day so we could go record at his house. Right. So I could see what he had and what he was doing, right? And we did that. We actually, it was one of them, how you get them half days.
Oh, yeah. You're good.
But I ain't telling my mother we had a half a day.
Of course not. You can't do that.
Right. So I dipped over his house, you know what I mean? And we ended up, and this was back in the days, like he didn't even, like, you remember the Sensonic drums?
Yeah,
the little circle, the 4-circle pad.
Right.
Yeah.
So he had that, and he had a little Casio, and
that's the drums that Cerrone used to use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he had, that. So we on his living room. I mean, his kitchen table. I'm sitting there playing the stuff, the Sensonic drums, and he's playing the keyboard, and we recorded it. And I thought this was the greatest song in the world that we made. Right. Like, I think I even mailed it to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis or something. Y'all need this, Wow.
That's what I'm talking
about. But it was like that was my beginning, kind of like really learning, not outside of what I was seeing what my dad and them were doing, but these were like, a full band where you had drummer, music, keyboard and all that. But he was a one-man band. You know what I mean? He was making everything. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I just figured I had to stick with this cat. It was a guy named, his name is Walter Sutton. And I was like, I gotta, hang out with him. So I would just bug this dude. I would call him every day if I couldn't, go over his house. And he actually taught me how to play the keyboard over the phone.
Wow. Whoa.
That's incredible.
How is that possible? That's
it started
gangster.
like this. He'd be like, okay, you want to learn how to play the...
He taught you keys over the phone?
Over the phone, yeah. He would teach me the theme songs, the TV shows and stuff like that. So he'd say, okay, take your thumb. You see the white note that has 2 black ones right next to it? Yeah, okay, that's C. And the one that's right in the middle, that's middle C.
C major chords.
Right.
Jeez,
so he taught me so I was like,
that's
every
crazy.
day after school, I would come home, get on the phone with him for hours.
And have a music lesson.
And he would show me this and show me that.
Over the phone.
Over the phone.
So listen, y'all, listen out there, listen to me. I don't want to hear any excuses.
Right.
Yeah,
this is a great, I didn't say he's a good producer. He's a great producer. That's why we're bringing light to it on this show. He learned how to play keys over the phone.
Over the phone.
So you have no excuse.
Yeah.
Especially when you can Google that right now.
I learned how to work my MPC over the phone from another guy. Wow. But that's years later.
My friend from down the block taught me how to use the MPC.
It was a cat named CJ that taught me my MPC when I first got it. But I was on the phone for him for 3 days straight, and he just touch this, do that, do this, do that, and by then I had it. But let's go back because this is way before that.
This is crazy.
Wow.
So
I started learning that way, and then I started doing what he was doing. And I tell a lot of young producers this too, because I think that it's great that you make what you make, but I tell them, if you were, let's say, somebody that built cars, well, the best way to know how to build, whatever the craziest car is, you take it apart. And you learn
the car piece
all
by
of
piece.
The pieces that's there, and then you put it back together. So with me, music was the same way. So I would find songs that I like, and then I would try to remake them as close to the way that they sounded. And in doing that, I was figuring out what the same thing that the person that made it, the processing that they were doing.
Right. All the nuances you would learn.
All of the nuances. And then it forces you to pay attention to other things. So, and then you figure each song is not necessarily going to be produced by the same person. So you start learning, certain signatures that this person may have, or certain things that this person does, or, certain techniques that this person may use. So after you get all of that, you can now take all of that and put that in your arsenal.
But now that becomes your style.
Right. You add your thing
your thing too. That's your style.
You got all of these different references that you can use and build on. And that's what strengthens you versus the guy that's just doing him. And, and then it's like it works, for different people different ways. So I'm not saying that it totally doesn't work like that, for other people. But, but that was my way. It's like I studied a lot of people, and that was my way of studying them.
Well, generally, if you're very good at something, you put a lot of time into your craft.
Yeah.
And you study A lot.
And I viewed it as a craft.
Right.
It wasn't just a hobby. I viewed it as a craft. You know what I mean? Like
no matter what it is, though, Rico. Like
Right.
if you work in shoe repair, you study shoe repair. If you work in fashion,
Right.
you know how to stitch the shirts or the clothes the way you need to. If you work in doing anything, you know, like we had T-Ski Valley on earlier, and he was talking about prostitutes, like, you know, strippers or prostitutes. You learn that pole. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
You become a master of your craft. So with that being said, moving forward,
you figure I
did your
did
thing?
this. This
Right,
is
right.
like you figure I met him when I went into high school. So
Right.
by the time this is all I did my whole high school. You know.
So you're supposed to get another degree, actually, when you graduate.
I mean, it was like
You got two.
Right, 2 degree.
Like between music really hitting me, and I'm gonna tell you another the movie Ferris Bueller.
Or Ferris Bueller's
I
Day
seen
Off.
that movie. I said I gotta do that.
Really?
I said I gotta do that. He had way too much fun. I gotta do that at least once.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that was a good movie.
And it got to a point where I would because I ended up going to a performing arts school, but I actually went for acting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I actually went for acting. I went for drama, and I was a drama major, but I stayed in the music department. I mean, I hung out with all of the musicians, everybody. I stayed there all the time and was, just watching and listening to what they were doing. And they had a band there, but they would never let me in the band. That was the wildest thing.
Why is that?
They hit me with the technicality. You're not in the music department.
Oh, yeah,
you're in the
okay.
drama department.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was like, okay. I took that. But so what ended up happening is, I was learning stuff from these guys and then learning stuff from, just anybody that I would, come in contact with. And then aside from that, then I would go on these missions, when I would ride the bus to go to school. But then I would just leave and get on the train, and then I would go record hunting. And I would go to the thrift stores, and I would be looking through the records and the tapes, and that's how I started discovering James Brown breaks and all this other stuff. Because when I didn't realize when certain records was coming out, I would be at the music store like, what drum machine is that makes that sound, that beat, not realizing
James Brown that played that live.
Yeah,
Right.
but they had been sampling it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. That's what
And
you're saying.
you know what I mean? So because my very first drum machine, well, the guy that I learned from he had a Roland TR 505.
To 505, right.
My first one was a 626, TR 626, my very first drum machine. But none of them sounded like the drums that was on Marley Marl's records. And I was trying to figure out.
Marley Marl used. He didn't use the TR.
No, what I'm saying is the beat for, you figure, Long Live the King, right?
Okay.
If I'm looking for those drums, that's the meters.
Right. Of course, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until I was able to start going around, and I would go to old record stores and and thrift shops and different places. And then I started just hanging out with older musicians that, they was at home in the day. So I could do that too. And it was like, that's when I started to discover so many other aspects of, what was going on with hip hop and with sampling. And, and then that's what started to develop the hip hop production, part of it, because I started to understand what was going on.
But at the time, hip hop was doing that a lot. That makes plenty of sense that you would do it that way.
And this is the good part. This is how I discovered sampling, right? Like I said, everybody got a keyboard, right? So it was this dude named George that came to school, and he had this keyboard, and it had a sample feature on it, right? It was like a Casio SK1, but
a sample feature.
But it was, it was 1 second.
Oh yeah, but to say how long it was mad short.
The dog sound,
right.
the dog barking, this, that, and other,
Right.
right? But what we was doing, we would get it, and say like a curse word or something like that, and put it in the desk, so the teacher is hearing Whatever it is. And look, who said that? The whole time the keyboard.
Oh, that's terrible, man.
Right.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? So I asked him once again, can I take that home? I was like, can I hold that for one night?
Ain't let you
for
hold
one night.
Right.
For one night, right? So what happened was this. This is crazy. I put his keyboard in my book bag, right? In my book bag, I also had my Walkman and all my tapes and everything, right? So by the time I get home and I cut on the keyboard. And when I hit the button, I was hearing music that was on one of the tapes.
How is that possible?
So what had happened is while it was in the bag, somehow, some way, the earphone, the Walkman was playing, the earphone went off, the button was hit, and that's when the light bulb. I said, "This is how they doing it."
Wow!
So you was making records in your bag? That's what you saying?
No.
You was sampling.
I'm just saying, just because all that stuff was in the bag at the time, one thing hit something else, something hit something else, and
it exposed the process. Right.
All I knew was how did this music that was on this tape I was listening to get on this keyboard?
It's facts.
And I'm like, wait a second, okay, put that to the speaker, play, and then it was like, that's when it clicked. And I said, that's how they doing it. So, needless to say, that dude never got his keyboard.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
How did you handle that?
Well, that's great. That's gangster.
The dog ate
hey, man,
listen,
it's one of those the dog ate my homework situations.
It was like, oh man, I forgot. Oh man,
wow, he's probably salty as
Nah, I don't even think he ain't never really complained too much about it, but I never gave it back. You know what I mean? It's like I just built.
You know what? So
from there.
They know that's what it is.
Yeah.
You jacked them and you grew from there. So that's what it is.
I had to.
So listen, I want to talk a little about because of how I met you. You were doing an R&B group at the time, and your R&B group was completely phenomenal. And talk to me a little about how you guys got together, and who was in the group and where they are now, and like I'm doing a where they are now segment. That's kind of funny, but like where they are now, and tell me a little about that and how from there your career in regards to who you produced. 'Cause I know you produced a lot of people.
Well, see, let me walk up to that just for a second.
Okay, well, I'm with you. Hey man, look, this is why we here. We discuss all the parts you need to discuss right now.
So check this out. So what happened is, like I said, I did this pretty much all of my high school.
So hold on, wait a minute. So you telling me I got in the game knowing you late? So you already,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well then, okay. I'm gonna shut up right now. So you say what you do.
Yeah, I'm trying to give it to you chronologically.
Okay, Rico, do what you do, baby. Let's go.
So what ended up happening was, I was into that pretty much all of my high school years.
Right.
And right when I graduated, you figure, right after 12th grade, maybe a couple months after that, Michael Bivins had come to D.C. and was on BET. And he was just by himself talking with Donnie Simpson, and he was saying that he had started this new production company, this company that he had, and he had new groups that, he was going to be putting out, and he was looking for, producers and writers and this, that, and other. So I didn't see that. My uncle saw it, and he called me. He was like, hey, that dude was in New Edition, but he got to come in. I mean, I wrote the address down where you can send your tape to, this, that, and other. So I'm thinking in my mind, like, man, I done heard you ain't supposed to send your tape. Somebody still, so. Of
course.
So I'm hearing what he's saying. It's like, okay, cool, right? So what ends up happening is like maybe a day later or a couple days later, you figure it's like a Friday night by then, and I'm actually going to a meeting with some people that wanted to work on a project for this female singer. So we were going by this other studio to just check it out, to, you know, discuss the rates and, you know, all that stuff, because they was getting ready to start working on this young lady's project, and they wanted me to, you know, be a part of that as well.
Right.
So in us doing that, after we did that, you figure we kind of just messed around, and out of all of that, somehow we ended up at a House of Pancakes at like 2, 3 in the morning. So we in there, and my back is to the door, but the guy that I'm with, I hear him say, "Yo, there go Mike Bivins." So I turned around and looked. Now, I'm not even thinking about what my uncle had said. There's a guy that was in my class that was like this huge New Edition fan. It was one of my boys. So I'm like, you know what? He might want an autograph. So I said, let me call him and tell him, dude is up here.
Right here, right.
If you want to come up here and get it, or, you know, he's up here. So I go to the payphone to call him, and he don't pick up. You know, he figures 2-something in the morning, right? But as soon as I hung the phone, I turned around, and Mike is standing right there.
Wow.
Opportunity right there.
He was like, "Yo, you gonna be long on the phone?" I'm like, "No." So
I'm hanging up right now. Click.
So that's why I always tell him. You know, I always tell him. You know, he's Mr. Telephone Man.
Oh, right.
You know, yeah. So that's always our little inside joke with that. And so when he got, I was like, "Yo, I thought about what my uncle said. I was like, Yo, I heard you was on TV saying you was looking for people."
Nice.
So he was like, "Well, what you do?" I said, "I make music." He said, "You any good?"
Good question.
I was like,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Good
Like, answer, too.
Yeah, so he said, "All right, well, let me eat my food. You got a tape or something?" I said, "Yeah, it's out in the car." Because you figure I had all my stuff with me because I went to that meeting about working on this artist. So I was loaded. I had everything.
Your stolen keyboard,
machine.
everything.
No, I didn't have that with me. But I kept my drum machine in my book bag at the time. So I had all my tapes. I had all this stuff. So I go to the car and I get it queued up. He comes out, and I'm playing him the tape. You know, and like I said, I'm, you know, in high school, so I'm sitting there, and it's like, and it's hitting me. I'm like, you know, I'm trying not to, like, you know,
right.
You know, and he's sitting over there.
This is really happening.
Yeah, like he bopping to it. You know, he's like, "Yo, play another one." I'm playing this, and so he says, once I finish, he's like, you know, I'm like, "So, think you might could work with, you know, maybe one of those beats or something?" He was like, "I think I could work with you."
Oh, facts.
So, nice. He said, "Look," he said, "I know how sensitive people are about giving their tapes out." He said, "But I tell you what. I'm going to give you the number to my mom's house." And this is, he was getting ready to go on the Triple Threat Tour with, you know, BBD, Johnny Gill, Keith Sweat, all that, right? He said, "I'm leaving on this particular date, but call me before, you know, by Sunday or whatever, right?" He was like, "I'm going to give you that." And he was like, "Let me live with your tape." So I was like, I had to make a decision, you know, and it was just like, all right, come on, let's do that. You know what I mean? So the funny thing is when I got home later that night, you figure it had to be 4 or 5 in the morning. You know I called that number, right?
Right.
Just to see who going to answer.
So I called, and I was like, "Can I speak to Mike?" And he's like, "Michael's not here." I was like,
that was his mom's.
It was his mom's. I was like,
and she was probably pissed as hell.
Yeah.
But how you call me and fuck up?
Right.
What's your problem there, boy?
I'm like, yeah.
Michael ain't here.
Yeah, I'm like, it's real.
Don't you be calling here. No, but that's crazy. That's crazy.
So what ends up happening is I finally, you know, do call, and, you know, he made it back home. The thing why he was in D.C., the ill part was this. He was already supposed to have left.
Oh, wow.
But the weather was bad in Boston, and they weren't able to, you know, land planes.
God made the weather bad, brother.
Right.
You ain't know the weather was bad because God made him stick. That was for you.
Yeah, that was for you.
Oh, God, look, read the shirt, bro. Read the shirt.
Yeah, how about that?
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
My man Talik with that.
That's right. Salute to you, too, man.
And so what ended up happening is we talked, and this is right when Mama Said Knock You Out came out. And we was talking about that album, and we ended up like, you know, my favorite joint was the same joint he liked, and, you know, so we knew we kind of liked the same things as far as musically. So then he started asking me questions. "Yo, if you had to remix, you know, this record or whatever, what would you do? So I'm like, well, give me a day or two and, you know, call me back and I'll have something for you. I'll let you just hear it. You know what I mean? So we went back and forth with that for a few times. So he would call and say, yo, can you make something that's like a combination of that record and this record? And I would say, all right, you know, give me a couple days, whatever. And then, you know, we
That's how you started your relationship.
And that's how we, So, and that was kind of like his testing thing to me. So, what ended up happening was, you know, he told me about when we were in the car, when I was playing him my stuff outside of the restaurant, he had mentioned, he kept saying, yo, I got these little niggas. You know, that he was talking about ABC.
Yeah, I know he
right?
was. Yeah.
Like, yo, and then he was saying, you know, I got this other group, these boys, man. So I'm hearing it, but it's like, I'm like, you know, it ain't registering, you know what I'm saying? But so what ends up happening is, after we went through this back and forth, you know, me sending them, you know, different stuff or whatever, and, you know, letting them see that I could, you know, make stuff kind of like on demand, you know, like if you needed this or whatever, I could do it and have it in the right turnaround time. So one day I get a call and he's like, yo, you know, he had one of the reps from Motown on the phone and it was like, okay, I want you to come to LA, we're going to work on, you know, this, that, and other. One of the songs for their album. So
Who, ABC?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I ended up getting the very last song on that album because they had already done it. And then the thing was, Boys and Men's album actually was done before ABC's album. It was already completed, even though it came out second, but it had already been done. So, I ended up going, you know, to LA. And the funny thing is, you know, I go to the studio. Now, this is really the first time I've been in a major studio.
Oh, yeah, right.
So remember, I'm the kid with a bunch of tapes in his book bag.
The stolen keyboard.
No, by then I had gotten some other stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I had gotten, it wasn't too much, you know, like, but I had, you know, I didn't need that sample. I had gotten another one, you know.
I'm going to keep talking about that stolen keyboard, bro. Cause that's gangster right there. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
You know who else I heard that said the same Premier said the same
Primo,
thing.
wow.
Yeah, he said, I think his first
Salute
sample,
to my homies Primo, kid.
I think he said something, it was a drum machine or something that somebody had, he asked him to use it. And
it was over. It was over. Give me that.
Yeah, and it was a wrap. So, exactly.
Like what kind of, like, you know, that thing in the school, like, yo, I like them sneakers. What size is those? You know what that mean, right?
Right.
They your size, son.
That's mine.
They my size.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is I went there, and when I go, it's these other two guys that's in the studio, so when I walk in and I introduce myself, so one guy's Dr. Freeze.
Oh, facts. Yeah.
And the other guy's Hitman Howie T.
Oh, wow, that's dope.
So they were working on something too. So so all of us had, you know, like a session there, and I always, you know, give shouts to, because Howie T really helped me, because, you know, all I knew was working in my bedroom on a 4-track. You know, I didn't even know, you know, how to even...
How to layer anything,
yeah,
how to track it.
Yeah, you know, they was laying simply tone and, you know, and syncing up to the tape and doing all this old, you know, and I'm like, I don't know what none of this stuff is, but Howie T helped me get through making my very first record. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Hitman Howie T helped me get through making my very first record. And then from there, it was just kind of like, I ended up, you know, working with Boys to Men and doing stuff on, you know, remixing some of their stuff and ABC, and then we ended up doing MC Brains. That was the rapper.
Oh yeah, MC Brains.
Yeah, and then you know, like, so pretty much I was the resident producer, you know, for the East Coast family. And then when we did the One for All for One video, they had everybody in there.
Nice.
So if you see that, I'm the dude that's on the piano. The kid playing the piano.
There you go.
Me. So, and then from there, you know, it's like, so I was, you know, signed, you know, with Mike's company, you know, for a few years. And then from there, you know, once I, you know, left that situation, I just kind of started, you know, working on other acts and, you know, different stuff and just getting my feet wet outside of there. And then that's when I decided, you know what, I need to get my own group. And I put together R&B group.
Mm-hmm. What was the name of the group? Tell the world.
The group, the original name was Audier, right?
That's Audier was. That's right. That's right.
And what that comes from is actually those are my initials, RDA.
Oh,
spelled out.
You never told me that. That's great.
Yeah, that's what it is. And what happened is that's what I used to just like any beat that I would make. Mm-hmm. I would make my own albums. So all of them, like if whatever beats I made this year or whatever, they would all go on one tape, and that'd be RDA Volume 1. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then another, so it had all these different volumes. By the time I got around to the R&B group and we were trying to figure out a name, they just happened to see one of the tapes laying around. I was like, what's that? And I was like, oh, that's, they was like, yeah, we like the sound of that.
Right,
and that's ended up being the name of the group.
That's what stuck, right, exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, I started doing that, and I ended up finding like really two phenomenal singers that was from the area. One guy from DC was a gentleman named Tony Sharp. Mm-hmm. He had sang with a lot of go-go bands and stuff, and he was really known, as far as being a really good vocalist in the area. Mm-hmm. So I connected with him, but then another cat was from Baltimore. Mm. At the time, he went by the name Ruscola, but then he later shortened it to Scola, and he ended up being yeah. It was kind of like a slang thing in Baltimore that all of them kind of had. You know what I'm saying? Right. So we worked together and kind of formed this group, and we were working on stuff and working on material. And the funny thing is that we actually, to take it back to, like I said, I was in the studio in New York mixing some of our stuff. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, this guy just walks in the room and says, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's a record, I'm mixing it." And that was Tim Dog.
Oh, that sound like Tim.
Right?
That sound like him.
Yeah, he just walked right in, and so and he's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is, this group I'm working with, and he listened, he liked it, and he wanted to bring us over to Island, right? So at that same time, I never forget, we went to this meeting, and when we went in the office, it was these other guys that was in there, and they were.
Who were the other guys? Okay.
Drew Hill.
Right. Okay.
But they hadn't had a record out. They were actually listening to the demo of "Tell Me."
Oh, really? Okay.
It was David Hollister singing the demo.
David Hollister, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
David Hollister was singing the demo. That song ended up being their first song that was released off of the movie Eddie. Remember the movie Eddie?
Yeah.
The basketball flick, Whoopi Goldberg.
Exactly.
So it was a weird situation where at the time Tim Dog was like the VP, but the president at the time was doing something with bringing Drew Hill in. So it was one of them situations where they had two acts, and it was like, they kind of gave us a scenario of, we could sign you, but we don't necessarily know when you're going to be released.
Right.
Wow.
And it was like,
you're going to be shelved for a while.
Right. You know what I mean? So I was like, never mind.
No, we don't want to do that.
And it kind of discouraged the guys too. So we kind of, I kind of just went back to just, all right, let me just produce. And then what ended up happening is Scola ended up in Drew Hill.
Oh, wow, that's wild. That's wild.
Years later, he ended up, so he's in the group currently to this day. So I talked to him last week. That's
salute to you, good buddy.
Yeah, and we still keep in contact. That's, that's still my guy, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, he actually ended up in the group, with them. So
that's great.
So it worked out, you know what I mean? So it worked out, in that sense. And but that kind of chronicles the time when I, ran into you during that time period there. Yeah. So that's how the whole thing with the R&B group that I was working with, at the time and trying to put out. So
and just to let you guys know, his Audier was off the hook.
Y'all got shortchanged. I'm gonna let you know.
This is facts. And and unfortunately, there's so many. I mean, and you're not alone in this quest, because there's so many talented people who create great music that you will probably never in your entire life will ever hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those times, you know. But you made up for it since.
Yeah,
pretty
I
much,
mean, you just got to keep going and keep pushing, and then even just keep reinventing yourself, because how the DJ thing came about was when the whole thing with the music industry with when the Napster and all that stuff, and it's like the whole industry just kind of like shut down, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, so from, you figure producers, that's what we make our bread and butter off.
Right.
Artists still have shows and appearances and all of that type of stuff, but we don't get that. You know what I mean? So, it's like we have to get ours from this, and if that's not available, you know what I mean? So that's when I had to go back to the DJ thing. Because I kind of learned all of it at the same time. It was, I think, maybe, over the summer of maybe 86, 87, something like that. It was like 1 year, it was like I got this, but then I ran into a guy that knew how to scratch, and you know what I mean?
Right.
He showed me a couple things. So it was like all of that stuff just kind of came in one time, and I kind of learned it.
I'm trying to say to you right now and everybody else, he's a very quick learner. He learns very fast.
Yeah.
So
I love your passion for music.
Oh yeah.
From 7 years old, just being observant, coming into the studio, like just being in awe of everything around you, and then just really being observant of your classmate who was, who was looking at the pamphlet and learning how to use this machine, to learning how to play the keyboard, over the phone, to learning DJing and watching your family members to see, oh wow, okay, oh yeah, this is auntie's song, this is grandma's song, this is this is my mom's song. Okay, cool. So this is how the crowd will react. Knowing all of that and all of this stuff kind of stays with you, just like made your fabric as a producer even that much greater. So then when it comes time to you producing music, you already know, boom, you're gonna love that shit. Right. Because it's in you.
Yeah, and then like
it's
I said,
in you.
you gotta pay attention to people and how they react to music.
For
you know
sure.
what I mean? So so like I said, it's a combination of stuff. You not only are you studying the people that make the music, you're studying the people that
listen to the music
absolutely.
too. You know what I mean? So you have to, have a clear
cause and
understanding.
effect.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to have a clear understanding.
So let's discuss the rest of your journey here. So after Audier, and you were trying to build your own group and moving forward from there.
Yeah, when that didn't work, I just went back into, just producing. You know what I mean? But also I started to, start doing some DJing as well.
Right.
So I was, just doing, local stuff and, parties here and there, this, that, and the other. And then it kind of grew where, I started to, get called for, political events, different things that was going on in the D.C. area. So the funny part is, I ended up, the thing is that all of that, I ended up as a DJ on the road with Kid Capri for 10 years, opening for him.
Wow.
Right.
Now you're in top company right now, good buddy.
But check this out.
Right.
How I ended up getting that was because of what happened is we have a mutual friend. And Kid had invited that friend. He's a real like tech guy.
Right.
So he's the guy that can set up your whole studio. He's got all the programs. My man Jeff Miller. So he ended up coming to New York, and when he got here, he told Kid, "Yo, I gotta call Rico. You gotta, he's gotta come up here. Y'all should, meet this, that, and the other." And we had actually met maybe 2 years before that. He had, hooked it up because he always kept telling us, he knew Kid really well, and then he knew me, and he kept going, "Man, I'm telling y'all, man, y'all need to get together, man. Y'all are a lot alike in in certain areas."
Right.
So he would call, and he would have him on the three-way, and this, that, and other, but it was like, man, I'm not trying to bug this guy, what I mean? Like, that whole thing. So eventually, I did go connect with him, and we did like we gelled, you know, like
timing.
Yeah, we gelled, but it was just on like some studio, you know, production type stuff. You know what I'm saying? So what ended up happening when he came to Kid's studio and he told him, "Hey, we got to call Rick, tell him to come up." So I came up from DC, and we was all hanging out. So Kid's working on a particular track or whatever, and he's like, "Man, I got to get a keyboard player." And I'm like, "I know how to play the keyboard."
Boom.
And he like,
He looked at your side eye like right.
you know, he like, "Nah, I'm saying you know how to play." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "So if I play you something, you can play it over, right?"
Right.
I said, "Play it." He played it. I went to the keyboard. Okay. He said, "You know, I knew you knew how to do something."
Right.
He's like, "I knew you knew how to do." He's like, "I didn't quite know where, but I knew you knew how to do something." So what happened is, we started working in the studio a lot, and we did that for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
So we doing that the whole time, right? So my same friend Jeff that told him about me as far as the studio. We were in the studio and we had Jeff on the phone. Jeff says, "Yeah, you know he know how to DJ too." So he like, "Oh, you DJ?" I was like, "You know, yeah, I do."
Okay, listen, let's give it up to Jeff, okay? Salute to Jeff.
Yeah, salute my man Jeff. Salute my man
Jeff, you need friends like Jeff.
Miller.
Jeff is the man.
Jeffrey Miller, that's my man. You know what I mean? So what he did, you know, he put that bug there, and so it was wild because Kid was like, "So yeah, you know how to DJ?" So I'm like, "Yeah, you know, this, that, and the other." And I just kind of threw it out there, like, "Yo, you know, like, you know, if you in DC or something, you know, whatever, you know, I come open up for you."
Right.
So you figure this had to be like in maybe like August or September of that particular year, right? So guess when he calls me?
January.
New Year's Eve.
Wow.
The biggest night of the year for
Partying, yeah.
any
DJ.
whatever, right? "Yo, I'm doing this ballroom, 5,000 people. You want to open up?"
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll be there. And that was my audition. And it worked, and I was on the road with him for, you know, like.
That's incredible.
10 years,
what a
yeah.
story, right?
Yeah,
right.
So that's how that worked, and you know how I ended up getting into, you know, that aspect of, you know, DJing, and then so doing that, you know, you figure we did, I mean, every type of party situation you could imagine, you know, from sporting events to celebrity parties to, you know, cruises to, you know, arena tour.
Yeah, because Pooch does a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
bro. He's not he's a
See, you really know him.
he's a cream of the creme. That's his nickname.
Yeah, I know. No, only people that really know him call him that.
Facts,
You know
that's
what I'm
facts.
saying? But yeah. But yeah, so, you know, and that was like one of the best educations that anybody could get. You know what I mean? Just being around and experiencing what I was experiencing, but being able to watch him, you know, day in and day out.
As far as DJs are concerned, he's top tier, bro. You know what I mean? So learning from him is official.
To me, I feel like, and I mean, it's my opinion. You know what I mean? I could be biased.
Right.
I could be biased, but at the same time, I've stood on the stage and watched him and everybody else. And when it comes to that, you know, party rocking, this, that, and the other, to me, he's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best.
That's right, baby.
He's the best.
Kid
You
Capri
know
in
what
the
I mean?
building. No
He's the
question.
best.
No question.
And, you know, it was great to be able to learn, you know, just sit there year after year after year and just watch, you know, and you know, and go through everything. So, you know, that was a wonderful opportunity, you know, and like I said, I really, really cherish that because I just feel like I've been blessed in a sense when, you know, as far as a producer, you know, working with R&B groups. You figure when I decided to work on my own group, I've already worked with BBD, Boys to Men, you know what I mean? Been around the whole New Edition, you know, extension of that, Family Tree, and, you know, different artists and stuff. So, you know, it was like, I feel like I learned from the best of the best on that side. And then on the DJ side, I learned from the best of the best.
So I wanted to ask you a
That's
question.
incredible.
As a producer, this is another question. I mean, I've asked you one of the. You did give me some advice at one time, which was really cool. But I want to ask you something else though. You didn't come in the game as a hip hop producer.
Actually, I did.
No, but no, not on that level.
Right.
You're true because when you walked in a real studio, you started doing R&B from there, right?
Well, ABC was still kind of hip hop.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
I'm talking about, but you. My thing is, your nuts and bolts came in actually producing stuff like on a. Reason why I'm asking that question is I'm trying to figure out how that helps you create hip hop music, because you created music and not.
Well,
you had a broader range as a producer when you walked into the room.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It was more or less what I was exposed to. Like I said, my high school years, along with producing, I was in a rap group, but I was the DJ.
Right.
In the rap group, you know what I mean? So I was the DJ. And back then, most times you figure like Eddie F and Heavy D and the boys, he was the DJ, the producer.
Right.
You know what I mean? You figure Marley was a DJ and a producer.
Well, that's a natural progression from a DJ. I mean, I DJ'd my whole life.
Howie T.
So, and then I started producing. I mean, Dr. Dre.
Right.
From Young TV Raps. I think I explained this to you before. Me and Dre, we worked on a lot of stuff for Def Jam at the time. You know, we did remixes. You know, that was our claim to fame. After we were doing a group called Original Concept. We worked on doing remix. We worked on some Slick Rick stuff, Young MC. You know, we wrote for Run DMC. We did Proud to Be Black. We did, we actually created bass music. Period. What Luke does to this day.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So my thing is, we were progressing as producers, you know, like Cool and Dre would have been T Money and Dre. There was that kind of vibe. But we got to a fork in the road where we could have did television, or we could have just kept as producers.
Yeah, I went for it.
And we went for the TV side,
which was a smart move.
Right, so we left the producing stuff alone. But I could understand the energy because I worked as a producer. So, and knowing that you have all these skills as an R&B producer and still can do hip hop, it gives you a broader scope. You know, that's what
I'm gonna add on to that, because even after doing all of that, I ended up figuring out that wasn't gonna be enough.
Oh,
in the sense of, I went back to school. I went to school for composition, so I could learn how. I actually learned how to write and score. You know what I mean? Because I was looking at what Jones was able to do.
Or Lionel Richie, for that matter. Yeah.
But more Quincy Jones.
Right.
You know, I was like, that became like, okay, follow what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Well, Quincy definitely. Quincy is one of those. He get the liner notes out, and
there you go.
He for real making music. That's real. That's when you really make music.
And that became like, okay, that's what I need to.
Because I
be shooting for.
Facts. Because when I listened to an interview with the Jacksons, and they talked about how, and nothing is wrong with. I come from the sample era, so let's keep it 100. But I'm talking about these guys are talking about they didn't sample nothing. All that Michael Jackson stuff, Heartbreak Hotel,
Live.
All that stuff. That was all literally written on liner notes and played.
Yeah.
And when you listen to the music, you go, yo, that is phenomenal.
You can feel it.
Yeah,
you can feel it. It has that vibe. It's very different from
the depth
a
and how
and you don't get limited, because like a big thing, like you said, with us coming from the sampling era, the thing that really rocked hip hop was by all of the lawsuits that people started getting samples.
Yeah. At first, because everybody was just doing it.
It was
whatever.
a free for all. Everybody was going crazy.
Yeah, it was the Wild Wild West.
It was the Wild Wild West. You know what I'm saying? And it was like everybody had their interpretation of what the sample law was, or if there even was a sample law. And then when they finally laid it down, you know what I mean? Like I said, so many people had lawsuits, this, that, and the other.
Right.
And then that's how the music started to change, because now labels didn't want, they wanted you to come in with stuff that, that didn't have samples in it, because they didn't want to go through the sample clearances. Yeah. But yet, the thing of it is that they didn't understand sampling is still an art form within itself.
No, because they didn't understand. They didn't understand that at the time.
They just didn't want to pay.
Until this day,
they didn't want to pay.
They wanted the results of the art, but they didn't want to pay for what actually contributed.
My good
Right.
friends, my good friends, the Bomb Squad, Public Enemy.
Oh man,
They made sampling an art.
They
the
made
way
it
they
an
put
art
that,
form.
they made it an art form.
That's
without
what
question.
that's what really wanted me to. That's watching Terminator X on Night of the Living Basshead, scratching praise. That's what made me want to learn how to scratch. I saw that. I said I got to learn how to do that.
So right.
And that's what made me want to, get into that. But then even listening to them, with the Bomb Squad and seeing the way that they put stuff together, and not just the songs, the whole album. You figure because, they had all types of crazy skits and different things and all that, and then and that even influenced like how Dr. Dre was doing what he was doing.
Oh, and then how Ice Cube took it and
then
used it
Ice
too.
Cube and Sir James,
because he learned from them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah.
So cause we're running a little long, so I want to get into what you're doing now.
So actually,
and talk to us about what you're doing now.
Because it's kind of gone full circle. I actually ended up reconnecting with Mike. And so
I know you had something to do with the documentary that he just put out.
What happened is we actually ended up becoming partners with each other.
Nice.
And working on, I worked on the doc. I ended up scoring the doc, and I was the music supervisor for his documentary. And I mean, it was an honor to do that. You know what I mean? Because, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had a career.
That's facts.
And if I could pay him back by, providing the music for the soundtrack of his life, I'm with that. You know what I'm saying? So that was great. And then we ended up doing a soundtrack that actually is going to be coming out, from that.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
That's
dope. That'll be, we actually slated for, I think, the early part of 2025. And that's just because you got, now it's, dealing with a lot of what's going on with the streaming and all this, that we wanted to come up with what's the best way that this is going to work, where, we not going to get jerked by the platform services, and it was about finding the best deal that we could possibly find. So it took us some time to do the research and all that type of stuff like that. So that's going to be slated to be out at the top, probably around the top part of next year. But it ended up turning out to be a really, really great project. We ended up doing records with it's a brand new edition record that ended up coming up, and that same song, believe it or not, is one of the last records that Fat Man Scoop is on.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope, bro.
Yeah, so it's never been released.
R.I.P. my man, Fat Man Scoop.
Fat Man Scoop. So he's on there. Then we got a joint with Slick Rick. We got something with Snoop on there.
We can't wait to hear that, brother.
So we got it's a fantastic project.
Salute to Michael Bivins, Big Ten. Biv 10 in the building.
Well, Sporty Rich, that's his new thing.
Sporty Rich, that's fact. That's fact. Yeah, with the hat.
I got it.
That's all good, bro. I watched the doc. I was at the premiere.
Yeah, you were at the
and the doc is dope. It put my boy Ed Lover in the doc. You know what I mean? It was kind of crazy, but yeah, man, that's just what's up, man. Yo, listen. Do me a favor, and I want you to do me a favor and look into this camera right here.
Okay.
And tell the people where they can find you, where they can find your work.
Okay.
And, what's going on with you, and let
them
all know.
You could check me out. You figure on all of the social media platforms. I'm on Instagram is Real Rico Anderson. On Facebook is Rico Anderson. If you go to YouTube, you could go to Rico Anderson Music and go to my page, and I've got. I actually have even extended it even further. I'm into the EDM thing now too.
Nice.
Okay.
So I have a whole project that I did that it was during the pandemic, and it was like, you know what? Now I got the time to just get into whatever.
Right.
And I made a whole project, like a whole EDM project that was really, like refreshing because I got to. Expand and stretch my music skills in a whole nother area. You know what I mean? And because sometimes even when you're doing stuff in the genre that you like, it can get repetitive.
Right. So
sometimes you got to go
up.
outside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just how I am. I mean,
facts.
I tell people I'm into music. It's not specific, genre or anything. So YouTube Rico Anderson Music. You can check that out there, and then Real Rico Anderson Instagram and Rico Anderson on Facebook.
That's my man. Yo, check it out. Superstar producer and DJ.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And music, 100% 360 all day, every day. Straight from Washington, D.C., my man Rico Anderson in the building. Thank you, brother, for being here.
Thank you.
Love you, man. Love you, my dude. Right?
Such a great history lesson.
So peep this here. You are now watching the T Money Podcast joint. My name is T Money. This here is Stack Scudero. And this here is Rico Anderson. Thank you very much for watching. Keep watching. YouTube, thank you very much for hosting this. You know, we all good. Oh yeah, peace. I gotta show my shirt. Yeah, my man. Like Streets is watching. You know what I mean? A little snug, but we all good. You know. Yo, Shy, peace out. Thank you very much for giving me a shirt. And we out of here. Two fingers. We good. Podcast joint.